Hello everyone, it's Jade from Boho Bookworm. Welcome back to my channel and welcome to my May wrap-up. So I read quite a couple of books throughout May, so buckle up, settle in and let's get started. The first book that I finished throughout May was Never Lie by Freida McFadden. Now I have read a couple of Freida McFadden books already. I've read The Housemaid, which is, was a 5-star read for me. I've read The Surrogate Mother, which was a 4-star read, and I've read Do Not Disturb, which was a 3-star read. Despite them going, down as I've gone along, I do know how binge-worthy Freida McFadden books are, so I was very, very excited for Never Lie, and it had been highly recommended by a couple of people. So Never Lie is a book about this married couple called Trisha and Ethan, and they are on the hunt for their perfect home. They end up heading out to this remote manor during a storm and get stuck there before the real estate agent arrives. They get completely stranded there during this massive snowstorm. At least they think they're alone. The house was once inhabited by this renowned psychiatrist called Dr. Hale. The story goes that she disappeared without a trace, never to be seen again. Nobody knows what happened to her. Straight away, Trisha is creeped out in this place. She doesn't like it, and there's this massive portrait of Dr. Hale hanging in above the fireplace, and she does not like it whatsoever. But she finds herself getting bored and ends up exploring the manor a little bit more while her partner's busy, and she stumbles across this secret room that contains all of these recordings on cassette tapes from conversations she'd had with her patients back in the day, Dr. Hale's patients. So curiosity gets the better of her and she starts listening to these tapes, slowly starting to put back together bit by bit what really happened to her. There was such a dark, eerie, sinister feel to this book that I did love. It is something that I do tend to gravitate towards in a thriller. The stormy, almost haunted setting about this whole story it was just so fun and captivating. However, the twist for me, I won't say what it is because it's a spoiler-free review, but the twist seemed to come from nowhere, and the whole story kind of just lost me after a little while, and I struggled to claw my way back into it after I'd put it down for a while. As compelling as it was, it just felt quite inconsistent and maybe a bit repetitive. For me, the story just didn't seem all that plausible. It became one of those far-fetched, over-the-top thrillers that really just leave a lot of us thriller lovers underwhelmed and feeling like it got a bit ridiculous. So for that reason, I gave this one a 2 out of 5. I mean, Freida McFadden's books, as I've gone on, have just gone down and down and down and down and down and down. But to bring her right back up, after this one I read The Inmate by Freida McFadden, and that one got another whopping 4 out of 5 stars from me, so there we go. I've got The Housemaid, The Surrogate Mother and The Inmate by Freida McFadden, which I did enjoy if you are interested in trying out this author. Now let me tell you what The Inmate is all about. So this is a book about this girl called Brooke Sullivan, and she's about to start work at this men's maximum security prison. She's been told to not give any information away about herself, no personal details. Does she listen? No, which instantly kind of just irritated me because it's just naive and a bit thick, really. Turns out that she's got this secret connection to one of the prisoners called Shane Nelson, who's in there for life for murder. And yeah, I guess the thing that really irritated me, and yes, I did give this book 4 out of 5 stars, but the things I didn't really like was the fact that the staff at this prison, if you actually think about the whole story, they didn't investigate her CV and her background. They didn't do background checks at all to kind of figure out that she had a connection to a prisoner in a maximum security prison. That just doesn't seem plausible to me. I mean, so the crime that this guy committed, oh my god, stupid motorbike, this crime that this guy committed, it was a long time ago, and I believe that her parents had tried really hard to kind of shield her and not bring her name into the media and stuff, so that she wasn't involved in what happened many years ago. But still, that kind of information would still be available to the prison, surely, that are going to hire her to look after these prisoners. Background checks would surely need to be done, and that's where my logical brain just comes in and thinks, hang on a minute. These early wobbles did have me teetering on the edge of, oh god, this is another Freida McFadden book that I'm just really not going to enjoy. But I'm glad I persevered because it did have many redeeming qualities. Again, no spoilers, but I thought I'd figured out this twist pretty early on, and I was like, oh god, this is going to be predictable as well, on top of everything else that's wrong with it. But then, so that twist did kind of happen, but then another twist happened, and another twist happened, and another one, and I was like, whoa, like whiplash. It was great. Overall, The Inmate was just this really binge-worthy, suspenseful, addictive book that I couldn't put down. If you're looking for a quick, riveting book, then look no further. In fact, in many ways, I thought that this book reminded me a lot of Colleen Hoover's darker books. So if you're interested, or if you like Colleen Hoover and you're interested in a bit more of like a thrillery dark read, then give this one a go. I've heard really mixed reviews as well about the final chapter, but all I'm going to say is that I freaking loved it. I was like, mic drop moment, wow. Then I went on to The Writing Retreat by Julia Bartz, which I read while I was on my baby moon in Crete, Greece. The Writing Retreat had been one of my most highly anticipated books for the year, so I was super excited to have a whole week off in the sun on an island to just soak this book up. And at the beginning, I was so hooked. I could not put it down. I was blown away. It was inspiring me to write something that I haven't done in ages. But yeah, it went downhill, but let me explain what it's about first. It's a book about this girl called Alex who gets the chance to go to this writing retreat for a month, where you have to write like an 81,000 word novel within the month, and whoever gets to go, it's for promising female horror authors. Whoever gets to go to this retreat is basically awarded like instant fame, and the event is hosted, or the retreat is hosted, by none other than Alex's idol, this horror feminist author called Rosa Vallow. The only catch is that one of the other people that were lucky enough to get a position in this writing retreat was Alex's old best friend, and I say old because they are definitely not friends anymore. And early on in the book, it comes to light that they're not friends. Something happened, you don't know what happened, but it involved blood and it didn't look very pretty. I think what I really liked in the beginning of this book was that they're given this challenge to write 81,000 words, which is 3,000 words a day throughout a month. And as someone that has always participated in NaNoWriMo when I can, I don't think I did it last year because I was way too busy. I think I went to New York, got engaged, found out I was having a baby. It just wasn't possible. But yeah, I've always tried to take part in NaNoWriMo and have always failed. It's such a hard challenge, but one day I really, really, really want to do it and succeed. But even if I just do it again, who knows if I'll be able to do it this year with a brand new little baby. The baby will be a couple of months old by then, so ooh, life's going to be busy. But yeah, because of that whole element to the book, I was like, oh, I can really like relate and connect to this. However, Rosa Vallow's methods to stimulate these authors' minds and inspire them to write masterpieces, they're a little bit unorthodox. They're drugged, they play weird games, she insults and belittles them, and the book just took this really bizarre turn that I wasn't expecting and I didn't really like. It started to have this book in a book element to it, which some people love, some people hate. I personally don't really like it. It started sharing excerpts from the book that Alex is writing for this writing retreat, and I just didn't really like them. I found them really bland and boring, especially considering these are supposed to be the most promising writers in all of America, and it was kind of rubbish. Like, I don't know, if you're writing a book about something saying that these are the most promising writers in an entire country, then the excerpt has to be really good if you're going to share one, and they just weren't. There was also this odd supernatural kind of element to this book that knocked the whole thing off kilter, and some people might like that, but for me it was just weird because the whole time you're reading you're like wondering, is it going to take this kind of like paranormal turn, or what on earth is going on? And because of all the drugs and stuff involved and like everything's a bit messy and odd, you didn't really know as a reader what to believe and what to think about anything. Another thing that really bothered me was that all of these writers are supposed to be women in their like 20s, right? Like, it's for women under 30. They're not teenagers though, so why did they sound like they were? The dialogue was so cringeworthy. They were honestly portrayed as these immature 15-year-olds at best. The book had this Pretty Little Liars kind of vibe to it, which I think I would have liked if I'd read it a couple of years ago, because I loved Pretty Little Liars, and I probably still would if it came back onto TV. But now at 32, it read like it was YA. I said before about Rosa Vallow and her weird methods of stimulating the writers, but overall she was just so over the top and too much. None of the story seemed unbelievable, from the things that Rosa Vallow did to the way that the girls in the story, the writers, handled the situations. It was just weird. The main character, she, like, I don't know who the author is or what she was doing, but she made the main character honestly seem like she had like this obsession with sex, and I think it was in a way trying to be really brave and non-conformist, and, you know, talk about all these different like gender types and breaking free of stereotypes and stuff like that, but every little thing to this main character just seemed so sexualized. There's a bunch of explicit sex scenes chucked into this book which they weren't necessary, they were not needed, and I'm not even a prude. The book just stank of YA and an author trying too hard to please a wider audience, and I really didn't like it. Unfortunately, after the first 6 chapters, which I loved, it just lost me. So I gave it 2 out of 5 stars because I did enjoy the first 6 chapters, and I feel like it could have gone so much better. Really disappointing. Then I went on to Alison Weir's The 6 Tudor Queens, about Jane Seymour, the Haunted Queen. Obviously, this book got another 5 out of 5 stars from me. Honestly, this series, I have an obsession. A healthy one, but an obsession. The first 3 books, obviously they do overlap because they're so closely linked, but they're all following different points of views, and they're so different and special in their own ways that it really doesn't matter that you're reading the same kind of situation that happened, because it's told from a different point of view, and it's each book is so unique, regardless of it being kind of going through the same history again and again. However, I am excited for the 4th book now, Anna of Cleve, because it's going into something that I now know nothing about at all. It's a completely different time zone, so not time zone really, but later in the 1500s. So I am excited to see kind of more of a progression now that the other wives have all kind of been dealt with. Jane was an interesting character to read about. I mean, I knew a few things going in. I knew that she was the most beloved out of all the queens. I knew that King Henry got buried next to her once he also passed away, and that he was absolutely distraught when she did die after childbirth. I have to say that reading about death very closely after childbirth is horrifying to read about when you're 7 months pregnant, but okay. I knew things like she was the only queen to produce him a male heir, which is the one thing that he wanted most of all. Her time as Henry's queen was short, so a lot of the book in the beginning is more so into Jane's childhood, her upbringing, how she came to be at the court, how she served Catherine, and her views and opinions on Anne Boleyn, how she'd actually had this ambition to be a nun before she went to court and stuff like that. So that was all very interesting, and you really do get a deep dive into each queen's history as the books go along, and that it's really, really nice to feel like you're understanding who they really are as a person rather than just King Henry VIII's wife. What I found really interesting was how viciously Anne Boleyn's character is described in book 3. I wasn't expecting the amount of name calling and swearing that book 3 entailed, and at times I was sat there reading it and I was like, did people really say those things or call people those things back in those days? I mean, I don't know, but it just seemed like, whoa, okay, right. I wasn't sure if that kind of language was really used back in, you know, the 1500s. I also found Jane's character quite self-righteous and bland. There's certainly less personality to her than the other queens that I've read about so far. You know, but that's what Henry liked about her, was that she was a bit more meek and subtle. She didn't really have too much of an opinion on things, whereas the other queens, obviously, you know, one completely changed the course of history and the other was so stubborn on her deathbed she you know, she claimed that she was still the true queen. And Jane was just a bit more like, she was just kind of floating around. And my disappointment in book 3, and it didn't knock off a start because I still think that they are so excellent, all these books, but the book is entitled Jane Seymour, the Haunted Queen, and so I wish that we'd gotten a bit more of that haunted element to the book. So Jane Seymour, there's a couple of scenes where she thinks that like Anne Boleyn is coming for her and her unborn child and things like that, and there's a few things that mention hauntings, but for the whole book to be titled like The Haunted Queen, I really did expect and want a bit more of that haunting element to it. I mean, if you think about the history of England, it's fascinating, and all these incredible old castles and buildings, and there's so many like places here that are haunted, or you know, are claimed to be haunted. So I would have loved that to be a bigger element of the book because of the title. However, it was still immersive, all-consuming, and I absolutely freaking loved it. Alison Weir just blends fact and fiction together so well. Her books are so well written, and I just can't wait for book 4 now. So I am going to end this video soon and probably go and open that up in my dressing gown because I'm pregnant. I'm not wearing clothes right now. It's to be honest, actually, there's something going on with my skin at the minute. I don't know if it's literally just my skin stretching to accommodate this ginormous bump, but the last like 3 days there's just like this little patch about like this big on top of my tummy that, like, if material even touches it, it makes me want to cry. It's so sore, and it's like this burning horrible sensation, and it doesn't feel like it's like just from stretching. One of my friends said that it might be like nerve endings or something, so I'm going to speak to the midwife when I have my next appointment with her. But yeah, it's all right today, but I'm just trying to keep like clothes off of myself in general, hence the dressing gown look today. But before I go, I've got 2 more books to speak to you about today, and the next one is The Good Neighbours. This is a book by Kiersten, and it's about this couple called Harper and Bryant, and they moved to this new area after some pretty traumatic events happen. They're more than a little bit scarred, and this new home just seems so idyllic until they meet the neighbours. To put it bluntly, these neighbours just start throwing themselves at Harper and Bryant, and they just seem hell-bent on destroying this couple's marriage and their entire life that they've built together. However, this couple is not who they say that they are, and dirty, long-buried secrets start to be slowly revealed. It took me a long time to get into this book. I had to restart it so many times. Who knows if that's pregnancy brain, I don't know. I've just been diagnosed with iron deficiency anemia, pregnancy related stuff, and apparently that can really affect your mind and your focus and your attention and stuff like that. So yeah, that's not great, and I have noticed a lot that audiobooks just don't seem to be working for me lately. But I kept on trying and restarting to try my best to get into it. Like, I'm glad I read it, but It's far from the best Kiersten Modglin book I've ever read, and there was just nothing special to it, to be honest. It was just a bit, again, unbelievable and ridiculous. So yeah, I gave this one a 2 out of 5 star. Lastly, I read What to Expect When You're Expecting by Heidi Murkoff, because I am expecting. And while I know that this book should not be taken completely as gospel, I did find some of it quite helpful. Like, yes, there were a lot of things that, I mean, a lot of people that I know were rolling their eyes at when I was like asking them to validate what the book was saying. Like, for instance, the book says fathers should get whooping cough vaccination. I don't know. I asked my midwife, I asked my sister-in-law, and they were like, no, they haven't heard of that before. The book suggests like having a mirror down there when you're in labour so that you can like have a look at what's going on and, you know, touch the baby's head to kind of inspire you to keep pushing and stuff. I'm just like, like I could not look at that. Sorry if that just sounds childish of me, but I don't want to see what's going on down there. Like, I'm not the squeamish of people, but I know I don't want to see my vagina being massacred, no. And I just, give me the baby after he's born, please. Like, I can't wait. I want immediate skin contact, but I don't think I can handle like touching the head while it's like still inside of me. I don't know, it kind of grosses me out. But like I said, this book, it was helpful for other stuff. Like, I haven't the faintest idea what I'm doing with pregnancy and becoming a mum and stuff like that. So reading this book, it did make me feel like a little bit more knowledgeable about the things that could happen, like, and little terms and stuff that I wouldn't have known before. So yeah, there's a lot about the book that I did appreciate. However, it's a really massive book. I was trying to read it slowly, like month per month as I was going along in my pregnancies. It's all breaking up into like month 1, month 2, month 3, and then it got to like month 7 and there was still a massive chunk of the book to go, and I'm like, I've got 2 months left until this baby's here. I need to read ahead because I don't think I'm going to finish this in time, with the amount of time I have to actually sit down and read a physical book. So I ended up reading ahead so that I could get it all done in preparation for baby, so that I'm not like, oh, some people say that you should just go in blind and not know what you're doing, but I wanted to be more prepared. And I know that some people like laugh at me for reading books, but you know what, I've always read books. I've always been a studier. People laugh at me and say that, oh, the book's making me anxious and stuff. I don't appreciate it when people say that to me. Like, I don't know what I'm doing. I don't have a mother to help me with that kind of thing myself. I don't have, like, I mean, yeah, I've got like my sister-in-laws and my mother-in-law to turn to if I need advice and stuff, but for me, I want to read that book so that I feel like less of an idiot when I talk to you. And I don't know, maybe they think that I sound like more of an idiot after reading this book than I did before, but I need to feel like I'm doing something to prepare myself for having a child and becoming a first-time mum. So don't judge me for reading a book, even if it's not what you would do. It's what I'm doing and I'm happy with that. And yes, I have seen lots of reviews about people saying that this book just turned them into a nervous wreck and they had to put it down and, you know, DNF it. But like I said, I appreciate the things that it did teach me. There were times where I had to put the book down and I was crying and thinking, I was feeling overwhelmed and emotional and, oh my god, like, what if this does happen to me? Like, I don't want mastitis, I don't want my boobs to be engorged and all this stuff. But that kind of stuff comes in pregnancy, and like, yeah, I kind of knew a little bit of that before I was pregnant, but honestly, like, I don't have anything else to go on. So the book, for me, it's nice to see all of the things that could happen so that I'm better prepared, better equipped to not completely panic if, you know, I get like a really sore boob and then get like a temperature of almost 40 degrees. I'll be like, okay, I know what this is, calm down, relax, I'm not going to die. Obviously go to the doctor, but you know, I feel like I'm more like in tune with, or like calm about certain things now at least. So for that reason I gave the book a 4 out of 5 stars. So that's what I read throughout May. I do have 2 other books on the go at the minute. I've got Secluded Cabin Sleep 6 by Lisa Unger, and I've got The Haunting of Blackwood House by Darcy Coates. So I am reading those. They'll be in my June wrap up though, because I'm not yet finished. I also did try to read Lessons in Chemistry by blanked on the author. Lessons in Chemistry is a very popular book right now. You're probably shouting at me at the moment what the author is called, but I really didn't enjoy that book. I actually ended up DNFing it. It is my book club pick of the month, so when we have our book meeting, either I have to just say I really didn't like it and I don't know what you're talking about, but I'm gonna try and restart that one before the book club, just to see if I can get into it, because like I said, like my head hasn't been that invested in audiobooks and like my focus has been down. So now that I'm taking like all these iron supplements and stuff, and my brain is hopefully gonna be a bit more less clouded, I will try audiobooks again and focus, and maybe I might like it a little bit more than I did before. But to be honest, Lessons in Chemistry so far, it just seemed like this feminist drivel that, I mean, the main character is supposed to be from, what is it, like the 60s, and she seemed like she'd just stepped out of like the 2023 year, and it didn't make sense to me, and it frustrated me, and it just portrayed all men in such this god-awful light that, yeah, for a book that claims to be funny, it wasn't. And I just lost my shit with it and put it down. So I will try it again and see what happens, but I will let you know how that goes in June. Anyway, have a good day further, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye.